So it's a great honor to be able to moderate this esteemed panel of two. And we have an opportunity to explore science, spirituality, the mind, the body, with two people who are at the cutting edge of this work and who have dedicated their lives to understanding this very important subject matter better. So I will do my best to just lead them into topics of conversation that can be the most useful to all of us. So I want to begin with the personal. I have now known Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswatiji for about, I think, 6 or 7 years. And that relationship is a very important relationship to me. And when relationships are important to me, I do a little digging, and I do a little looking, and I do a little research. And I have done that. And I'm not sure if any of you know that Sadhvi comes from a background of sincere, dedicated study in academia. I had the pleasure of reading her dissertation, which she wrote about Paramarth Niketan and what happens here. An extraordinary dissertation that she wrote as part of her PhD. And I've been privy to hearing her story, and so I know that while we look at Sadhvi today and we see her as a beacon of spirituality, a woman who has immersed herself in seva, in spiritual study and spiritual practice, it's interesting that she also comes from this background in the West of academia, of science, of empirical reality as well. So I wanted to begin with Sadhvi and ask her a little bit if she would be willing to share some of that story in her own life of how she has bridged the world that she came from to where we find her now here on the banks of Maganga.
Thanks for being with us to moderate this conversation. Before answering his question, I also did just want to mention that we will be opening it up to questions from the audience as well. This is not so much a panel discussion as lectures, but rather really a conversation on science and spirituality, and we'll see where it takes us. We're happy for it to take us wherever it takes us. And you're all part of that journey. You're not just voyeurs of the journey. You're not just watching us take a journey, but you're part of the journey. And so we will open it up for sure for questions from people here as well. In terms of, for me on a personal level, that bridge, it's interesting because when I studied science and studied academia and studied all of that which in the West is what we're told is a good education, I thought I knew it all. I thought I was learning it all. Science has this incredible way of weaving a web around itself so that it seems to be all of existence. And so when you study science, it seems as though you're studying everything. And it wasn't for me until I came to India, came traveling with a backpack. I had no idea I was going to stay. I was not on a spiritual path. I wish I were. I would love to say I was, but I wasn't. I didn't know there was a spiritual path to be on because I was in this tightly woven web of Western culture, academia, goal-oriented life of success as it's given to us in that Western definition of the equation for happiness, for joy, for fulfillment, which is a good education, a lot of money, a house in the right area of town, looking the right way and the right brand of clothes, etc., etc. We all know this equation that's given to us. So I wasn't looking for anything. Came to the banks of Ganga, and this is, as a slight but important aside, this is the power of grace. When you get something you've worked really, really, really hard for, on one level you could say, well, yeah, you deserve it. I mean, you've worked. But when you get something that you haven't worked for, when you get something that on no objective level that we're used to using to measure, do you deserve at all? That's grace. So if there's an exam in school, for example, and you study really, 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 really hard, and you do well, you deserved it, you studied. But if at the time of the exam prior to it, your mother or your grandmother or your child or a friend was sick, and so you couldn't study because you spent all your time taking care of the loved one, and then you went into the exam and you still did well, that's grace. And so for me, it was an experience of grace. I was given an experience, given an awakening, given a knowing, given all of that, a state, a place, a being of divinity. And what it made me realize, once I got out of the intoxication of it and was actually able to look at anything, when I look at science now, because I still love it, but what I'm now very clear on is science has jurisdiction over things that science knows how to measure. So if it goes in a beaker, if it's got a weight or a volume or an area, if it can be heated up in a crucible on a Bunsen burner, if it can be seen through a telescope or a microscope, science knows what to do with it. And in that arena, science is really great. But if it's anything beyond that arena, science has no idea what to do with it. And because science has no idea what to do with it, it likes to tell us that it doesn't exist. So there's a little bit of ego in the web that it weaves. And this is what I love so much about sitting with my beloved Bruce, because it's this, for me, even just being here, it's this beautiful dissolving of a web. We're not dissolving science. Science is here. But dissolving this thick web that says science is everything. And actually being able to see beyond that aspect. And the only last point that I would mention quickly is we speak a lot in spirituality about truth. And so, for example, satsang is one of my favorite times of the day. It's something that I do each evening after the arati. And it's in the presence of truth. But as we always explain, it's not the truth that's relative. So it's not the truth of today is March 6th, we're in Rishikesh, because that's only true right here, right now. It's not true for anyone anywhere else in the world right now. It's not going to be true for even us tomorrow. It'll be March 7th. It's not true once you're no longer in Rishikesh. And the truth of which we speak in satsang and in spirituality is this eternal truth, the unchanging truth. And science really likes to claim ownership of an unchanging truth. That what science says is capital T, truth. And the problem with that is that its truth is limited again to its tools. And so there was a time not too long ago where truth was that the earth was flat and the world revolved around it. And in your science class, you would have gotten an A for saying, yes, the earth is flat, and yes, the sun and everything revolves around it. And then our tools got better. And then we were able to see, oh, wait, it's not round. I mean, it's not flat, it's actually round. Not because the truth had changed, but because our tools had improved. Oh, wait, we're revolving. And so for me, that intersection of science and spirituality really centers on truth, because I feel that spirituality does have a hold on an eternal, capital T, truth, whereas science's truth is much more of a lowercase t truth, that it's changing. As our tools change, as our tools improve, as the world changes, so does the truth. And that's fine. There's nothing bad with it. It's just not eternal, the way that spiritual truth is.
Thank you, Sadhvi ji. And then we have Bruce Lipton, also from the West, also steeped in academia and science and study, but who interestingly delves, as you now know, deeply into the spiritual discussion. And as I've mentioned before this week, when I've spoken about Bruce, I've said, to me, one of the most important people in our community, because he bridges through his work and his being, he bridges science and spirit. So for a man who came from, again, this very scientific place, what's happened in your life to bring you to this seat right now?
A shock.
A shock.
When I was very young, of course, you listen to older people, adults, about life, and there were two different perspectives. There was the spiritual perspective of life, and there was a scientific. What was interesting as a child even, I saw that many spiritual people would talk about the glory of spirit, but then as a child I could also see, while they had nice talk, their lives didn't match what they were teaching. And so at some point I started to say that spirituality is not the path, but I saw science. And what was science unique? It was that a truth in science on this side of the planet is the same truth in science on the other side of the planet. And I started to realize that the understanding of science seemed to be more important than the belief in spirituality. And then, of course, as a kid, Albert Einstein was still alive. And as a kid, when you see Albert Einstein, he's like the most lovable grandfather image you could ever imagine, a joy-filled scientist. So I said, that's where I'm going to go. I spent the next 30, 40 years of my life in deep science. I learned everything just like out of a book. I just read it and it became, yes, that's true. And genes control life and we're just molecules and then we have life and then we die and then the genes and molecules turn back into the dust. And I thought, oh, okay, we just have this one life. And so I had no spirituality. As a matter of fact, I was very proud of my science. And then I started working on cells. And I saw something that was completely different than what was going on with my field of science. In one part of my life, I'm teaching in the medical school, and I'm teaching conventional science. Genes control life, and your fate is determined by your genes. But in my laboratory, I was working with cells, and my research revealed the genes were not controlling the behavior of the cell. The environment was controlling the behavior of the cell. But at this time, all of the scientists around me were genes, and I'm the only one that's looking at a different answer. So most of my colleagues just said, oh, your work is interesting, but it's not very important. But I kept studying the cells. The cells were my guru. They were my teacher. I observed and watched the cells. And when I started to understand how can an environment change genetics, all of a sudden I realized that the information from the environment was being controlled by the cell membrane, the skin. And that information then went into the nucleus and controlled the genes. So I started to look at the nature of the cell membrane. And I saw the mechanism of what are called receptors. Like in our membrane, our skin, we have receptors, eyes, ears, nose, taste, and how we see the environment, and that information controls our biology. In the tissue culture, I saw the same thing. The environment was coming in through receptors, and then the membrane would tell the genes what to do. Well, I was so excited by this, and I remember typing on the computer my insights and talking to the computer about, oh, this is how life is controlled. And then I realized as I was typing on the computer that what happens is no two people are the same. And I say, how do I say that biologically? How can I say no two people are the same? The answer is simple. You cannot take your cells and your organ and put it into another person's body, because the immune system says self. And if you put somebody else's cells in your body, the immune system says not self. And the immune system will eliminate it. So I said, wow, no two people are the same. Where's the difference? And then I realized on the surface of our cells, there are special receptors, antennas. And no two people have the same set of antennas. I say, yeah, but what are the receptors reading? I say, they're reading environmental signal. I said, then no two people are reading the exact same environmental signal. And I started to realize, but wait, our identity are these antennas. And so science says, oh, the identity is physical antennas. And I go, no, the antennas receive a signal. I said, you're focusing on the mechanical receptor, you're not focusing on where the signal is coming from. And then in this moment of blinding flash, I realized, oh my goodness, all of us are each receiving a special environmental signal. But the most important and exciting part was our identity coming through the receptors is not in here. Our identity is coming in from outside. And all of a sudden I said, but if my identity is on the outside, then my body is not the identity. It's picking up a signal. And in physics, we call it the field. And I say, oh, each of us is recording our own environmental field. But then a life transformation in 1 minute. I was not spiritual 40 some years, and in 1 minute, I became fully spiritual. How? Because I realized we're not in here. We are playing our spirit through this. So I refer to it like the body is a television set. And my television set is playing the Bruce show for you. And I say, but where does the Bruce show come from? I say, it's the broadcast. And I say, oh. And at that instant, I realized, if you're watching a television and the television breaks, we say, television is dead. I go, is the broadcast still there? I say, yes, the broadcast is there. You get another TV, you plug it in and turn it on, and the show is back on. And all of a sudden I said, I cannot die. I cannot die because I'm the television set. The broadcast is forever. And I started to realize, my goodness, because if my body dies, a new TV in the future from another parent will show up with the same antennas but a different body. It doesn't have to be male or female. It could be white, black, yellow, red. These are television sets. We are the broadcast. And I realized at that moment, I cannot die because I'm not in here. And at that moment, I have to tell you the truth. 40 years, my work was coming from my head, my brain. And in that 1 minute, when I saw, oh my God, I'm out here, I'm a field, I'm an energy, I'm a spirit. All of a sudden, my heart started to ache, not with pain. My heart started to ache with the most overriding joy I've ever experienced in my life. The tears were coming down my face, and it was like, oh, And my whole life changed. Why? Because if you eliminate the concept of death, there is nothing to fear on this planet. And I lost the fear of death. And I also started to recognize, oh my God, I am this energy. And then my science brain said, why have a spirit and a body? Why not just be the spirit? And that's when I found out I had Jewish cells. How did I know? Because I asked a question. Why have both? And 50 trillion funny cells come up with a question they asked me. I asked them a question. The cells asked me a question. The cell said, Bruce, if you're just a spirit, what does chocolate taste like? And then I realized the body is an extension of the spirit. The body gives us an opportunity to experience life. What does a sunset look like? What does music sound like? What does wonderful food taste like? And I said, that's from the body. And that body sends that information back to my spirit. But then I also recognized, but my spirit is driving my body and creating. And then I started to laugh because I said, everyone thinks we die and we go to heaven where you can create whatever heaven is for you. And I realized, oh my God, we are born into heaven. This is where you came to create. And the problem is that why can't our creations always match our wishes and our desires? Because between our spirit and our body is a mind. And that mind gets programmed by teachers. And if the teachers don't give you the absolute truth, your body is not running from truth, it is running from program. And I started to realize, oh my goodness, all my biology friends were talking about genes, and all of a sudden I walk in and say, spirit. And they looked at me like, what, are you crazy? So I walked out of the university. I said, I cannot go back into that classroom and tell people they are victims of their genes, because we are not victims, we are masters. The only problem is if you don't have a good program, what you create is not beautiful. What you create is disease, problems, war. I go, this is from other people's beliefs. When you get your own belief and you let go of the program, you start to walk with spirit. And when I started to walk with spirit, I walked to Rishikesh.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bruce. One of the questions that students of yoga often have is, what is this interplay between the brain, this physical signal-emitting thing, and the mind? How do we control one or the other? Can we control one or the other? And what is the interplay between the two? I'd love to hear from Sadhvi first on this. It's just a small topic, Sadhvi.
It's a great topic, though, and there's so many ways in to the topic. Because ultimately, the question that you've asked is, how do I create my life? I mean, Bruce is talking about creating our life. So much of that which we hear, whether from spiritual leaders or motivational speakers or yoga teachers and everyone in between, speaks about creating our life, creating our reality. And yet, what are the tools we have to create? I mean, if I'm going to build a physical structure, we have bricks, we have cement, we have wood, we have whatever we need. Well, if I'm going to build joy, peace, love, what are the building blocks? Now, of course, the first piece of it is that's the truth of who we are. So the good news is you don't actually have to build from the ground up. We just have to remove that which is blocking us from living as that. But again, what are the tools for that? It's easy to say, we can speak about it, but what are the tools? And really the tools are our mind, our thoughts. Whether we're doing yoga postures, whether we're doing meditation, whether we're chanting affirmations or mantras, whatever we're doing, it's the mind that's telling us to do it. The mind is the one that says, go to yoga class instead of go to the bar. The mind is the one that as we're doing the yoga postures either keeps us focused there or says, oh my God, this is so stupid, I could be eating pizza and watching a movie right now, or anything in between. It's the mind that chants the mantras. It's the mind that notices when my mind is no longer chanting my mantras and, as Puja Swamiji says, has gone to Paris without a ticket or a visa. It's my mind that brings it back. So the mind is actually our greatest tool. It's almost our only tool in this. But the brain is really what we have tangibly. I mean, working with the mind is very abstract. And I come from a background not just in academia, but in psychology. And it's very abstract. The brain, and this for me is what I love about it, is the brain, I think, is the medium through which we experience consciousness and the mind. So the brain is not the mind. We know, for example, as Bruce spoke so beautifully, one TV set is broken, we get a new TV set. So life after life, when we reincarnate, along with the soul, something called the subtle body travels. I won't go into too much of that here, but an aspect of the subtle body is mind. So the brain is finished. Those neurons are no longer sending electrical signals down the axon. Brain is dead, literally. It's buried, it's cremated, whatever your tradition may be. So the brain is not the mind, and yet, for all practical purposes, in our practice, in our yoga, in our sadhana, in our intentions, the brain is the vehicle through which, the medium through which we experience the mind. So for example, Bruce exists. We know Bruce exists. But how do I know Bruce exists? Well, I have 5 ways of knowing he exists. I have my eyes, I have my ears, I have my touch, I have my smell, I have my taste. If I close my eyes and Bruce is not speaking, and presumably he doesn't have on any strong cologne or something that my sense of smell picks up, and I'm not touching him at this moment, or licking him at this moment to taste him, right? So I'm not able to use any of my senses. For me, Bruce might as well not exist. There is no interaction between Bruce's existence and my experience if I'm not able to experience him through my 5 senses. Now, of course, that doesn't change Bruce's existence. He's still here. You could all see him. Your eyes are open. But for my life, if I'm going to be impacted by, taught by Bruce, whether by the words he speaks, by the presence of his being, by his love, by his energy, well, I have to have some way of interacting with it. And our physical brain is our way, I believe, of interacting with consciousness. It is our way of interacting with the mind. Now, what we know, and this is the stuff I really love about neurology, is that you can actually go into the brain because it doesn't have any pain sensors. And so if for some reason someone has to have a brain operation for some other reason, so the scalp is open, they actually can go in with metal probes and they can stimulate different areas of the brain and they can make you very happy. They can make you giggly, they can make you very sad, they can make you angry, they can make you sexually aroused. They can pretty much create all of that which we usually term emotion, feelings. And the reason that for me this is so deep is most of us identify as those so deeply. I am my anger. I am angry. Yes, I would be able to live a spiritual life, except I am angry. The thing blocking me from spirituality is my pain, is my memories, is my emotions. Well, the truth is, those exist in very physical, tangible, electrical, chemical reactions in the brain that can be either stimulated or numbed. Anybody who's ever taken chemical assistance, anything ranging from drugs or alcohol to any kind of pharmaceuticals that change your brain chemistry, knows it impacts what we think. It impacts how we interact with the world. Well, it's not impacting our etheric spirit mind, as Bruce spoke about out here. It's playing on the electrical chemical patterns in my tangible brain. And this is where that which we do for our brain, whether it's nutrition, whether it's yoga, whether it's 100 other things we may do, deep breathing, bringing oxygen. I mean, forget the spiritual benefits of it. That which we do for our brain changes our mind. It changes our experience of our consciousness. And that's very exciting. The other last piece for me that's exciting is because we know it can be stimulated, it loses a little bit of its power over us. If you know that someone can stick a metal probe in your brain and make you angry, it's hard to really identify as that anger. If you know that a pill or a liquid changes that anger for you, well, it's hard to identify as I am that anger. Now, obviously, the goal is to work with it non-chemically, but if you've ever used the chemicals and had that experience, you at least know it's not me. Because look, there I was, but I thought differently. I felt differently. And what it reminds us is I'm not my emotions. I'm not my thoughts. They're taking place due to patterns, due to what I eat, the food I eat, the air I breathe, the chemicals I'm ingesting, purposely or not purposely, due to the energy I'm picking up in the world around us. And so that gives us a lot of freedom. And the freedom there is our thoughts are tickets. They are not who you are. They are, I like to think of them as tickets. If you walked into an airport or a train station or a bus station and you said, I'd like a ticket, the first thing they would say to you is, where to, ma'am? Where to, sir? Or if you said, just give me a first-class ticket, best ticket you've got, fastest vehicle, give it to me now. As much as they tried to help you, again, they would have to say, where to? Every thought we have takes us to a destination. Some of them take us to a destination of peace, of joy, of gratitude, of meaning, of fulfillment. Some of them take us to destinations of misery, of hopelessness, of worthlessness. But we jump on them because they're the train that's passing by without ever wondering where they're going. I mean, if I said to Bruce, guess what? I've got you booked on this wonderful bus this afternoon. Come, come, come. Well, hopefully he would say to me, and where are we going? Bus sounds great, train sounds great, and where are you taking me? And unless I could tell him that I was taking him someplace he wanted to go, no matter how comfortable or great or decorated or fancy the compartment might be, he wouldn't jump on. And so when we have thoughts, when you have stuff of the mind, fluctuations of the mind, before we jump on them, when we recognize this is just a chemical and electrical pattern, before you jump on it, ask yourself, is this the destination I want to go? And if not, get yourself a different ticket. Because that's the power we have to create that world.
Thank you so much, Sadhvi. So, Bruce, I like the way you think. I like the way you think. What am I saying? What does that mean? I like the way you think. I mean it. What am I actually saying?
And I want to say that everything that Sadhviji said, I don't want to repeat it because I would say exactly the same thing she said. So I'm going to just make an addition to the thinking part. Mind, brain, body. Before I even go to that level, let me just tell you, because I work with cells my whole life. The most primitive organism on the planet are bacteria and cells like amoeba. Everyone knows amoeba. I go, an amoeba has all of the functions that you have. An amoeba has a respiration, digestion, nervous system, reproduction system. An amoeba even has an immune system. So single cells are like miniature people. And in the world of an amoeba, the amoeba has to live in the world. It has to read what's going on. Is this a good place to go? Is there food here, or is there something scary? So the amoeba doesn't bounce. It moves in the direction to give life. So it has to read the environment and adjust the biology. Now, everyone thinks, well, cells, how can a cell be so smart? You know, they're so small. Everything less than human is less smart. And I go, stop. Cells created us. We were made by the intelligence of cells. And so when you look at your body and you say, oh, I am Bruce one thing, and I go, that is an illusion. Every one of us is made out of about 50 trillion cells. A human body is a community of cells. And I said, well, when they live in a community, where should the community go? Well, here's the issue. Let's talk about a liver cell in your body right now. If the cells are going to adjust to the environment, what environment does your liver cell see? Does it see where we're sitting right here? No, it's inside. How does it know what's going on? The community of cells create the nervous system. The nervous system is to read the big environment and then send the signals to the cells to tell them what to do. So the reality is your cells do not see the real environment we're living in. They see your interpretation, your thought about that environment. Is this a safe environment? Then 50 trillion cells say, good, I'm very happy, I'm in a very safe environment. But if you have a picture of fear, then you're sending a signal to the cells to get ready for protection and get ready for fight or flight. So the function of the mind, brain, body in the other level than what Sadhviji has just said is, how do I coordinate the community of my cells? Should my cells be healthy? Should they be afraid? Should they be in love? Why? Because their expression is our expression. So if I send them messages of fear and concern, then they are like inside getting very nervous about what to do. And fear and love are the opposite behaviors in a cell. Love, open, take in the love and bring it in and grow. Love is a nutrient. Fear, shut down, close off, get in protection. And I say, well, you can't be in love and in fear at the same time because love is open and fear is closed. So our mind-brain-body relationship, in addition to all the wonderful spiritual aspects that Sadhviji is talking about, has a mechanical role. What should my cells be doing? They cannot see what's going on, but they're going to have to move the community from here to there, and so they need to organize their behavior to make my behavior. So all of a sudden, your thoughts are not just contained in your head. Your thoughts are changed by the brain into information that then goes to 50 trillion cells and tells them what's going on. And the problem in our world today is fear. Will I have enough? Will I have food? Will I have health care? Am I safe in my world? And I say, this closes the cells down because fear means protect yourself. But you cannot live in a closed world. You have to take in nutrients. You have to take in love. You have to take in these things. And so the biggest problem on the planet today, 90% of health issues are not because there's anything physically wrong. It's because the signals that we are sending to the cells are not supporting growth, happiness, and health. And all of a sudden it says, oh my goodness, then the mind and the brain are profoundly important because they determine everything below your head, what's going to happen. And when you live in the world of watching the news, being on the internet, reading a paper, and everyone wants to tell you, be afraid, be afraid, be afraid, that is what has caused the healthcare crisis on this planet. And when you can let go of those messages, then you can send messages of love, health, and harmony. And I know this in my own life, because as I said, once I started to recognize, why should I be afraid? I'm creating. If I'm going to create, then why would I create their story? I want to create my story. And that means we have to have control over the mind. Control over the mind? Here you are. Yoga is control over your mind. Don't let your mind run away with other people's stories. You have to create your own. We have to let go of the belief that other people tell us this is a scary world, a threatening world. It is only scary when we believe it is scary. You change your belief, you change your life. And when you're here, you say, how do I change my belief? The first thing is control the mind, because the mind is sending the signals to the body, and that controls our genes. So there is no cancer gene. There is absolutely not one gene that causes cancer. Cancer is an expression of anger and fear. If you lose the anger and you lose the fear, you are free to be healthy. And if you haven't heard or read the book by my dear friend, our dear friend, Anita Moorjani, her book is called Dying to Be Me. She had 4 years of cancer, and her last week, her body let go of the control. They put her on machines to breathe and to circulate her blood, and she was on a machine. And on the end of that week, she was so thin, the cancer lumps were sticking out of her body. And she went into a coma, unconscious. And the doctor called the family and said, the oncologist said, this is the last stage. She's about to die, so come to the hospital. In that coma, Anita had an out-of-body experience. She left the body. She took her consciousness back to the source. And she resolved the anger and the fear that she had because of her family issues. Her father, she thought she had lost the love of her father. And when she saw her father in that realm, that spiritual realm, he said, no, you're always my love, and all that. And then there was an interesting moment, as people have out of body. She was given a choice. Do you want to stay here, or do you want to go back to your body? Well, where she was beautiful and heavenly and peaceful, and it's the most wonderful experience she had after 4 years of cancer. It was like, but she saw her husband, Danny. She saw her crumpled up body, and that he was holding her hand. And she said, if I don't go back, Danny will get sick. And she said, I will go back into that body. But you know what the most exciting thing was? The issues that caused the cancer were spiritual conscious issues. And when she resolved that, and she came back in the body and woke up, she came back to full life. The machines were no longer necessary. She was living on her own. And within a few days, the lumps of cancer disappeared. Within 3 weeks, the doctors were saying, where's the cancer? And they were kept looking in her body to find the cancer. And Anita says, I do not have cancer anymore. And all of a sudden, at some point, they realized there was no cancer in her body. Why I bring her up? She's what I call the poster child of biology of belief. Here's a person on her last day of life changed her mind. And the moment she changed her mind, her biology, her health came right back to full health. There was no cancer left in her body. The doctors were like, there's got to be cancer. And she said, there is no cancer in my body anymore. And to me, please understand, I don't care how sick you are. If you can go to the last day and be on a machine and have no life left in you and then change your mind, you can come back in full health in that one experience. So your mind is controlling this biology. And when you take back your mind, your love, let go of the fear, you are the master of this wonderful machine, the human body. Understanding the machine, understanding. Again, I leave to the same conclusion. Understanding the machine and understanding how to control the machine, one word, yoga. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As I said, I like how you think, Bruce. The connection between the breath and mind. So we conclude here together that the mind is the issue, an issue, that we can feed the brain to improve our thinking. The mind seems to be at the root of dis-ease or ease. The breath, as we've learned in yoga, as we're taught from all the masters, has an integral role in our own personal transformation from dark to light or from dis-ease to ease. Sadhvi, could you speak about that?
Sure, yeah. The breath is really a bridge. But a flowing, rather, you could say a river maybe, a flowing, moving bridge river, connecting the spirit and the physical. As we breathe, we're literally connecting with the universe. So in our inhalations, we're taking in the universe. In our exhalations, we're giving out into the universe. And so on a very, very deep level, the breath is that which connects us. We know there's an intangible spirit that flows through us. But the breath is really the tangible aspect of that. That on a constant basis, we are in communication, in connection with the universe. Taking, giving, taking, giving, taking, giving. And so on that level, how we feel about taking at all, how we feel about letting go at all, plays in very physically with our breath, which is where, for example, types of breath work, whether it's something like pranayama or whether it's actual breath work practices, get so deep into the psyche. It's not just an exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, but it's actually an exchange of consciousness. And all of that which we hold on to, all of our thoughts, all of our beliefs, all of our patterns of self, of world, of love, of fear, manifest in breath. If you watch your breath, if you really watch your breath, what most of us will find is either the inhalation or the exhalation comes more naturally for us. And the other one requires a little bit more attention and intention. Again, not good, not bad, not right, not wrong, simply interesting. Where is it that my consciousness is interacting? As Bruce spoke so beautifully about the interaction of belief, spirit, and immune system. Well, the breath could be sort of the medium through that. There's no issue in my lungs. It's not that my lungs don't know how to inhale or exhale. It's not that my diaphragm doesn't know how to go up or go down or contract or release. What is it then that makes such a deep exhalation so hard? What is it that makes the inhalation, the deep one, so hard? Why do we take in so shallowly? And it's really just that beautiful bridge I find between psychology, spirituality, and the physical being of what is the belief? What do I not deserve to take in? What am I not prepared to let go of? In what way am I holding back from being a conscious, excited, active participant in the exchange of energy with the universe? Because that's what our breath is a way that we're exchanging with the universe. So anybody who's ever done any kind of breath work knows all kinds of emotions come up. I mean, you thought you were just breathing, and suddenly you're crying. Suddenly you're remembering. Suddenly you're afraid. And that's what the breath connects us. And this is where work on the breath is such a beautiful tool to access, to see, to understand, and then to heal our relationships with ourselves and our patterns of belief regarding our relationship with the world. What do we deserve to take in? How much and for how long? What are we permitted to let go of? Is there a universe that will hold us if we exhale? If I let go of this one, how do I know there'll be another one? And all of that which leads us into these patterns that keep us so stuck, both physically, because of course, on a very, very physical level, if you're not breathing properly, you're not going to be healthy. Our cells need oxygen. So if I have a pattern of belief that is interacting with my breath, that's going to be the equation through which, the pathway through which that belief impacts my physical body. Deprive cells of oxygen, they're not going to flourish, they're not going to blossom. So how can we, through yoga, through working with the breath, through working with the body, because of course it's not just the breath, it's the muscles of our body. How, working with that which feels so physical, can we get at that which is actually so deeply spiritual and psychological?
Just to begin with, a very interesting concept that Judeo-Christianity has provided the large population of the world with a belief that Genesis occurred and God created the planet and the water and then the animals and the plants. And after all this creation, then God said, let's add some humans to the mix. So we didn't come from that creation, we were added to the earth. Science comes in and also separates us from the planet because conventional science, based on what is called Newtonian physics, we are physical particles separate from each other. No, we're all separate pieces. And we lost the understanding that the word Gaia is a living organism. The earth is a cell. We are connected to everything. We've lost that vision. We feel that we are a piece in a bunch of pieces. And as I said, are we going to be safe or are we going to be afraid in this? And I said, then we want to protect ourselves. And if you understand the breathing of most people, it's very shallow. It's right up here. Why? I don't want to take too much of the outside in. I'm protecting myself, but as Sadhvi just said, we still need oxygen. So we breathe in a little bit of oxygen, but we want to be separate. And the simple reality is, those beliefs are totally false. We were created with everything. We are created from everything. There is no separation between us and the world in which we live. And so when we are breathing very shallow, we are actually, remember I said, protection, close yourself down. Shallow breathing, closing yourself down. When you start to learn to take in the breath of life, you are opening yourself to the entire world around us. And that opening of the world makes us part of this world, not a separate piece from one another. So breathing becomes a very important part of, am I hiding from the world by just breathing a little tiny bit? Or can I take in this breath and become part of this oneness that we are? Your separation is where all the problems of life come from. Your breathing can open you up to this entire world, to take it in. You are this world. You are every bit of this. You're a reflection of everything out there. You came from that. So basically, can we stop the protection that we think is helping us, but it's the protection that is killing us? And breathing, can I take this in? Can I take the world in? Yes. And I can thrive. And so when we start to let go of that protection, the breathing will start to go from shallow chest to abdominal, because I'm taking in the world with every breath. I'm taking in the energy of the world with every breath. And that is what makes us whole. You have shallow breathing, you have fear, all of a sudden you cannot be whole anymore. And so we come here to learn to take power back. And oh my God, closing word, yoga.
Thank you so much. Anybody who steps onto a yoga mat is looking for a transformation of some kind. It could be that they're looking for presence. I don't feel like I'm present enough in my life. It could be that it's something very practical. I feel pain in my body. I feel out of alignment in some kind of way. It could be a relationship. I'm in pain in a relationship in my life, or I'm in pain because I'm not in a relationship in my life. wondering how I can change and align myself so I could have a better relationship in my life. Whatever the transformation is that people are looking for, we can find it on a yoga mat. A student asked me once, how does change happen, actually? And I thought that to be a very profound question. I'd like to put it to each of you. How does actual transformation take place from a spiritual perspective, from a medical scientific perspective?
Well, I can share only from personal transformation. There certainly may be other ways as well, but the way that I've experienced it is not about taking that which you have and transforming it into something else. That which is there, there's nothing wrong with it. So many times people talk about annihilating the ego or doing battle with my emotions or fighting with my anger. These sorts of words that we use that imply that there's something in me that is inherently wrong, evil, bad. And then there's another part in me that is the inner goodness. And the goodness needs to fight the inner badness. And assuming that it fights it well, we vanquish the badness and we win. That has never been a metaphor that has worked well for me. And one of the reasons is that anytime there's a battle going on inside, there's a lot of anxiety. I mean, conflict is anxiety producing. Wars are stressful. Even if it's a movie you've seen 20 times, you know the good guys win. Nonetheless, watching the battle causes your pulse to go up, your blood pressure goes up. And the other aspect of that is that regardless of who wins, you're sleeping with the loser. I mean, if I vanquish my ego, let's say, where exactly does it go? I mean, is it going to crawl into Bruce's bed in the night? Right? No, you're no longer welcome here. Find a new bed. So Bruce, Tommy, somebody's going to wake up with my ego in their bed. No. My ego is still in my bed. I may have crushed it into submission, but it's still in me. There's not like an ego graveyard somewhere in the ethos for all of those of us who have managed to annihilate our egos and they just go there to wither and die. It's in me. And so for me, the two aspects of transformation that have been very powerful, the first is to stop thinking of things as a battle and to recognize that we are, as our spiritual and philosophical and yogic traditions remind us, infinite, boundless, whole, divine, which means that, okay, naturally, yes, it's crowded in here with my ego, definitely. I need more space. Well, I have more space. I'm infinite, I'm boundless. And rather than trying to think about annihilating my ego, can I experience a spaciousness in which there is room for this aspect of me that was created really with good intentions? Anybody who has studied child development knows about when and how the ego gets formed. And it actually gets formed for our benefit. Becomes a hindrance later on, absolutely, but it's not the bad guy. Our anger is there for a reason. It has come up for a reason, usually to protect us from pain. But can I connect with a spaciousness in which I'm able to look at and to say, yeah, okay, ego, no problem. Hang out. You're not going to get to run the show. You don't get to be the loudest one. You don't get to dictate the drama or the script or any aspect of it. But don't worry, nobody's trying to annihilate you. You're welcome to hang out. I see you. And what I have found is very much like in The Wizard of Oz, in the I'm seeing you, when that curtain gets pulled back on the little wizard, that which had seemed very, very daunting and huge and dark and powerful and menacing actually turns out to be not much more than a small little aspect with a projector. The other aspect of transformation that has been very powerful for me is just getting out of the way. Knowing that there is an intelligence in the universe that knows exactly what needs to be done. Exactly who I am supposed to be, what I'm supposed to grow into, that knows the divinity of me, much like knows the butterflyness in the caterpillar, even though the caterpillar doesn't know it, that knows the apples in the apple seed, even though the apple seed doesn't know apples. And to have faith in that intelligence, in that wisdom, in that universe, and to recognize that the only thing that prevents me from transforming is my own ego, is my own fear, is my own attachment to status quo, to my identity as I think it is. And so if I can just get that out of the way, transformation is the nature of the universe. Everything around us keeps transforming. And if we are able to just create enough space that our fear, our anger, our attachment, those identities, we can create space from them. Into that space, grace flows. Physics tells us the universe hates a vacuum. We move from a place of low pressure, pressure flows in. Well, I've experienced the same in myself. The emptier I can become of who I think I am, into that space, transformation flows.
I'd like to make one sentence that, if you get this sentence, to me it's most important sentence. The function of the mind is to create coherence between your belief and your reality. This is very important, because as you change your belief, you change your reality. And so our lives are not pre-programmed. They're just an expression of the picture you hold in your mind. And if it's a picture of fear, oh, I'm going to get cancer, or I'm going to get a disease, or someone's going to come and get me, the function of the mind is to take that picture and break it into chemistry, like paint, that complements that picture. And the brain's job is then to take the picture, break it into chemistry, and take that paint, that chemistry, and release it into the body, so the body becomes a matching image to what you hold in your mind. And this is where people have so much problem, because they say, oh, I don't want cancer. I go, the interesting part, the words are not relevant, it's the picture that's relevant. I don't want cancer, what's the picture? Cancer. And so you could say every day, I don't want cancer, I don't want cancer. What are you doing? You keep painting a picture of cancer. What is transformation? Changing the picture. Because when you change the picture, the reality you experience absolutely changes. A very simple point, which I'll talk about tomorrow a bit, is how come your life every day could be trouble, struggle, work, and it's just so much effort to make a nice life, and you work on it. Every day you work on it. And then one day, you meet someone, and you fall in love. In 24 hours, your whole world changes. In 24 hours, what was struggle is now, oh, life is so beautiful. Oh, I'm so in love. The music is better. The food is better. The friends. I say, 24 hours, what did you do? You changed the picture. And that moment of changing the picture is the moment you change your life. So what's transformation? Eliminating the programming of the negative pictures, and psychologists will tell us 70% of the programs that you were downloaded with in your first 7 years are negative, disempowering, and self-sabotaging. And we run our lives 95% of the day from the program. So right away, I can say, well, what's your life? I say 95% is based on struggle, fear, all those problems. And I say, then what happened when you fell in love? And this is the most beautiful understanding from science. You let go of the program. A program that has been running you stops. For those people that have seen the movie The Matrix, it's not science fiction. The Matrix is a documentary. Everyone has been programmed. And in the movie, they say you could take a blue pill and you stay in the program and life is just the way it always is. But in the movie, they say if you take the red pill, you get out of the program. And I say, science has now recognized when you fall in love, that is the red pill. And and the moment you stop playing the program, the instant you stop playing the program, then you become the creator. And that is exactly why heaven on earth is that experience of love that comes into your body. Because love stops the program and you become the creator. And when you create in love, and your mind is now going to create from that love, your biology will be in coherence. It will match love. When you experience love, you become love, and your biology becomes open, healthy, happy, and your creative powers turn what may have been hell on earth into heaven on earth 24 hours later.
Before Tommy asks the next question, I wanted to say something about that beautiful, beautiful emphasis on love. It doesn't matter what you love. When Bruce speaks about the honeymoon effect and being in love, most of us, immediately our minds go to our romantic relationships. Should we have one that's working great for us? There's this wonderful smile on our face. Should we have one that's not working so well? We feel, ugh. Should we not have one at all? We feel even more, ugh. Here's the beauty. It actually doesn't matter what you love. Because if you really are loving, what you're loving is spirit. So I love Bruce. Now, I love his body. It's great to have him sitting next to me. It's great to hold his hand. But ultimately, what I love is his spirit. And if all you love is the body, that's called lust, not love. So if you're really loving What you're loving is essence and spirit. And the reason I mention that is when people talk about not being able to love God or wanting to love God or wanting to experience devotion, this is all the same stuff. It's the same conversation. It's not love over here and then bhakti or devotion over there. We're saying exactly the same thing. If you really love, you're loving God. Even if that love for God, for the universe, comes through the form of your spouse, through the form of your parent, through the form of your child, your pet, the tree in your backyard, your grandmother, it doesn't matter. Because spirit is God. Essence is God. And again, we use the word God just to be short and, it doesn't matter what words you use. Energy, supreme, universe, whatever. If we really love, that's what we're loving. And that's why, for example, as he said, when you're in love, the food tastes better. Well, you're not in love with the food. Why are people who have fallen in love better tippers, nicer bosses? Right? I mean, everybody knows, the boss had a good weekend, right? Well, not with you. But why is it that Monday morning the boss comes in after a good weekend and is nicer to everyone? Because when you're in love with divinity. Through that person has connected you to the source of love. But I wanted just to emphasize this because he's given such an incredible endorsement of love. Don't worry if you're not in a relationship. Love anyone, love anything, love a tree. Love your pet. Love Ganga. Love yourself. Just love.
I am deeply honored by Sadhviji's words because I absolutely did not go to the direction that she was saying, because also it intimated it had to be in love with a person. No, gardening is love, putting your hands in the soil and raising something. Cooking a meal is love. When you put your heart into it, the food is wonderful. Painting a picture. So yes, a honeymoon does not imply that it's with another person. Your pet, your garden, whatever you do that gives your mind freedom to open up from the program, that's where the love is coming from.
Thank you both so much. I want to explore quickly the concept of a teacher. Most of us can look back in our life and identify somebody that helped to elevate us to the next level. Someone we would refer to as a teacher for that moment, at least in our life, to carry us forward. I wanted to ask if you could speak about the idea of teacher and what that means to you in your life.
Well, a teacher, I've had lots of teachers in my life from whom I've learned a great deal of things ranging from math to psychology to yoga, to so many different things. In the spiritual tradition, we speak about a guru, which is actually different. And it's an important distinction because those of us who are educated, who have any bit of academics in us, what we know is you can learn a lot about something. I know, Tommy, you do so much work with addictions, and we learn all about why we're addicted. We read books on it. Maybe we write books on it. But that doesn't actually change the fact that we are addicted. And we may take all kinds of classes and learn all about why we are feeling separate, why we're upset, why we're not having a honeymoon effect. But all the learning does not actually change the reality that we're living in. And the word guru literally means the one who removes the darkness and brings the light. And it's a light of truth. It's a light with which we really can see. And it's a light within ourselves. In Indian culture, the darkness is darkness of ignorance. We don't have time to go into the whole philosophy of that darkness of ignorance. But the guru is really the one who brings that light. And on a personal level, what I have found with having a guru is that it's crucially important. And it's crucially important because my own ego is too smart. I spent many, many years of my life before I had a guru learning all about what we should do, how to overcome this, how to overcome that. But the ego is so good and so afraid. I mean, it's not evil. It's not trying to harm us. It's just so afraid of being annihilated that it'll become whatever you want it to be. And so what the ego does is it starts to be that inner voice within us that says, oh, you don't need to do that. Oh, you don't need to do this. Oh, this person who's telling you that is just, they're arrogant. They're the problem. You're good. See, look, aham brahmasmi. I am God. I mean, if I'm God, so why do I need anybody to help me at all? Why do I need to take a yoga class? Why do I need to go to therapy? Why do I need a teacher? Why do I need to work on anything? I'm God. So the ego can even co-opt very deep spiritual truths for its own benefit. And it's very good at that. And what the guru does is shine a light through all of that. The guru is really the one who says, not so fast. Yes, you're divine. Yes, you're wonderful. And yes, you are this lump of clay on a wheel that's going around. And don't worry, I'm just going to keep beating you a little bit. And at the end, that who you are, that which you are, will emerge. But if you jump off this wheel because you already think you're done, or because you don't like to be slapped as you go around the wheel, you're never gonna be that. And I know, for example, that I would never be where I am in my life on any level if I didn't have a guru. Because it's too easy not to go there. It's too easy to just do this with ourselves all the time. You are the right one. You're great. Other people are the problem. The place is the problem. Your in-laws are the problem. You know, whatever it is. But the light of the guru is so strong. And the love of the guru is so strong. That light just transforms.
Yeah. A teacher to me is one that offers information, that if we take this information, she'll guide us through our lives. And it's interesting because we always have some presumption that some teacher must be well-trained and have so many degrees and certificates and years of practice. And we always look for who is that guru. From my own personal experience, the most exciting thing is who was Bruce's guru that took him from his former existence into this existence? It wasn't even a person. It was a cell. I learned from cells. Teachers can be anyone. Children can be the best teachers. If we see how children respond with love and how the joy of their life, what happened to us when we were those children with joy and love and all that beautiful part of growing up? We had teachers. And many of those teachers took us right out of that program. And so not all the teachers are taking us in the right place. So what is a teacher? One who offers information that can change the direction and character of your life. Are there any necessary degrees or certificates? Absolutely not. And the whole point is this: we're open to learning. So don't make a special image a teacher. You don't know where you're going to get those lessons from. Be open to read and respond to the world around you, because then you will have power to participate and create the world around you. And in closing, I really want to honor our dear brother Tommy, who has handled us wild animals. He has tamed us. Thank you, Tommy, for helping us program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. So this is something I've always wanted to say. International Yoga Festival, Parmath Nikatan. Put your hands together and show your love. Show some love. Bigger love. Bigger love. Show it. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you all so much.